good. Technology is now something you can actually build for and use. Good. How does it seem like EU4 light? People complain about the building system, but I think the building system is actually going to be more complicated than EU4. Look at EU4. People say, oh, its building system is complicated. No, it's not. You know what you do in EU4's building system? I'm going to tell you this right now, Twitch chat. Hear me on this one. You click on buildings, look how much money they'll give you, and then you click on a province. Except now you do it with a menu. So you click on workshop, then you click on church, then you go, well, the church will give me more money, so you build the church instead of a workshop. They're basically the same building. They're functionally the same damn thing.
Improve your skills, then find me.
Will be served.
I bet I can.
So when they're saying, oh, we'll just have 4 buildings, and you can stack them and make provinces. I'm like, great. So I can have a fortress, city, guard, North Italy, for example. Fantastic. I can have Egypt turn into a granary. I can make all my Egyptian cities just be granaries to feed Rome. Great.
As you wish.
Fantastic. You know, these things, it makes sense. Wait, why am I doing this?
Balance above all else.
Exactly, Fanaku. It seems like they're not trying to make a game that's complicated for the sake of just being complicated. So many people like to jerk themselves off to needless complications that don't contribute anything to the game. It seems like the sum of its parts is going to be the complicated part, not the actual, doing it. I mean, seriously, look at EU4. Once they realized that the game wasn't complicated whatsoever, and they just said, okay, fine, here's a build macro for buildings. There's no functional difference between workshops and churches. So, here you go. The game became better. That's because Crusader Kings 2 is trying to do some really complicated things while still being a fun game. And for the most part, they succeed, but for a lot of it, they fail horribly. They also don't do balance because teehee, it's for fun, which leads to things like even trying to play historically anymore just doesn't work.
Will be served. They will greet you as heroes.
For example, the entire game basically ignores Gavelkind now. Gavelkind, the most dominant succession law of the time, just doesn't get used anymore. Everyone makes it their first game plan. And yeah, if you were playing to win in the medieval ages, you would get rid of Gavelkind too. But Gavelkind was the most common succession law of the time. And then they have things like the Muslim empires, right? They try to make the Muslim empires play like a feudal empire, but they shouldn't. And not only shouldn't they actually make this weird decadence system, which is quasi-historical, but kind of leaves out the actual negative of the Muslim empires, which was the fact that since any child could inherit, and they had a harem, you had like 10 brothers, all with claims to the empires, who immediately killed themselves the second the father died. But they ignore that because, oh, that wouldn't be fun. Who would like that? Oh, I wouldn't want to play that. Personally, I think that would be the interesting part. But no. No. Elaborate on that brother killing. Muslim empires, at least during the medieval era and into the Ottoman era, had a problem where they kind of didn't really have strict inheritance laws, which meant that whenever the king or sultan died, all the brothers would be like, the empire's mine, and one brother would be like, right, but dad said I get to inherit. And everyone would be like, nope, it's mine. I'm his son. And they'd have a civil war and a civil war and a civil war and a civil war and a civil war and... European countries, nations, people, had strict inheritance laws. However, their inheritance laws were really, really dumb at the time. So their inheritance laws kept people happy and away from civil war, but it also tended to split up the empire into useless parts that were useless. For example, you guys probably know the name Charlemagne. What happened to Charlemagne's empire? Gavelkind. He basically said, this brother gets a part, this brother gets a part, this brother gets a part, and then all of a sudden his grand, huge Europe-spanning empire, or at the very least Western Europe-spanning empire, split into like 4 parts. Francia, Middle Francia, Eastern Francia, and Italy. Then Eastern Francia and Middle Francia Eastern Francia and Western Francia killed Middle Francia. Eastern Francia then became the Holy Roman Empire, and Western Francia became France. Germany and France have always been trying to kill each other, Twitch chat. God, this champion is so unbelievably fucking overpowered. How does this shit never get nerfed?
An ally has been slain. An ally has been slain. Enemy double kill.
In Muslim empires? Well, once you died, I suppose you didn't really give a shit about your empire. So, your suggestion to not get laid or kill your brothers or sons or whatever. The Ottomans eventually came up with that solution where the Ottoman Sultan would just kill all the sons he had that weren't the ones he wanted to inherit, but that had some drawbacks to it, obviously. And, no, I mean, I guess the general idea is who gives a shit once you're dead? Oh, is my empire gonna be fractured and split into civil war? Well, why do I care? I'll be dead. What champion is that?
has been slain.
I keep forgetting to press W to charge up my tier. Well, generally speaking, it's because any civilization based on a monarchy will eventually have a dude who thinks he deserves to be king more.
Slain an enemy.
I know Twitch chat. That was really good. I know Twitch chat. I know.
An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
Okay, Shen went over there, so I followed Shen. That's funny. That's funny.
Your turret has been
I'm gonna tell you right now, I have no idea about anything in the Mamluk government. Not really something I've read about. Things to know about the Mamluks. They were the slave soldiers that took over their kingdom that every story writes about. The second thing to know about the Mamluks, they were conquered by the Ottomans eventually. Yeah, that's pretty much their call to fame right there.
enemy has been slain.
Have you heard of a story about slave soldiers taking over a government? That was the Mamluks. They were the ones that did that in history.
Ally has been slain.
Ow.
You have been slain.
Keep forgetting to spam my W on cooldown to charge up my tier. I know much about the Hashinshin Caliphate Tian.
Balance above all else.
No. I'm trying to think who that no, Hashinshin. No. That's Muhammad's Caliphate, right? The first one? So I don't know what a tier is or whatever you said.
Double kill.
What? Think about the Ottoman Empire. Our current EU4 game has a renewed hatred of the Ottomans. But to be fair, they kind of... What's the right way to put it? They kind of... screwed with everyone around them. Bluffed! There's the word I'm thinking of. They bluffed everyone around them to a win. But countries are so weak, are too weak historically compared to Tungu. Chiff, they went something like 60 above their force limit, spamming mercenaries, and everyone thought that was their real numbers, so they pieced out of the war, and then the Ottomans bankrupted after the war. But they killed Persia in the war, so they ended up doing quite good. It was Austria, Poland, Persia, and I think some Italians against the Ottomans. Shit.
Enemy double kill.
The cause renews me.
So basically, everyone thought the Ottomans had like a 200,000 force limit in the early 1500s. So Poland and Austria went in, started beating the crap out of them. Persia started to lose their territory slowly. Then Poland and Austria were like, oh no, he's got too many troops, we can't win this. So they pieced out for Wallachia. And then the Ottomans killed Persia. And then the Ottomans bankrupted after the war. But because Persia was dead, the Ottomans lost Wallachia, so they lost like 50 dev and gained like 500 in Persia. How do I know so much about history? I'm trying to impress women. Is it working? Is this real history? No, that's what happened in the EU4 game. The Ottomans just bluffed the world. But now the Ottomans are behind in ideas and aren't that ahead in development. So, it worked temporarily, but I don't think it'll be working long term. Well, I mean, it worked in the long term too. They're alive, yeah. How much debt? I mean, they had so much debt they had to bankrupt. You don't go 60 above your force limit with mercenaries in that game and not bankrupt. Yeah, Raziel, this is new fashion. You wear black on black on black. It goes great with itself.
Shut down. Shut down. An ally has been slain. An ally has been slain. Your team has destroyed a turret.
I mean, that just seems like a waste of all our time, doesn't it? What do we got here? Right. Supposed to be going you.
Will be served. Balance above all.
Why no presence of mind? Because I prefer Triumph. So Chet, this is going to be my final opponent. The Turret of Turretville. I did it.
Destroyed a turret.
They're gonna have to do some serious fucking buffs to Aatrox to get him to be viable.